Welcome to the Thriving Tides podcast. I'm Stephanie.
And I'm Julianne. If you're an entrepreneur or busy individual looking for self-care ideas, you're in the right place.
And we can't wait to share our experiences with you. Gineen Nicholls is a proud Islander. With a love for fitness, she found her way into owning a local fitness company with her husband Tom and other partners. In just a few years, this business grew more than they'd expected. But when Tom was in a near-death stock car racing accident, everything changed. Gineen was supporting his healing journey while still working 12 to 16-hour days in their business. This racehorse lifestyle caught up to her very quickly, and she had to make the difficult decision to leave her passion in order to make her recovery a priority. It took over 6 years to heal from burnout and adrenal fatigue, and she is so grateful to be feeling good again. Gineen recently jumped back into the fitness industry to share with others the things she learned firsthand. We had a great time learning from Gineen and know you're going to love this episode.
Welcome, Gineen. We are so excited to have you on this episode. Thank you so much for saying yes.
Thank you. I'm so excited. I was so excited all day. Thank you.
That's good. Keep up that energy. I love it. So why don't we kick things off with you telling us a little bit about your journey?
Okay. How far back are we going?
Well, you had a pretty profound life-changing thing happen about 10 years ago, almost 10 years ago. So maybe just before that, and then you can tell us what those impacts were.
Yeah, exactly. So my life back, it was about 10 years ago. I was big into fitness. We were co-owning a gym facility and running boot camps and super, super busy. And then all of a sudden I kind of got side railed because my husband was in a stock car racing accident. And I don't think I even realized then how traumatic that was and the impact that it had on me. You know, you just you go through and you just look at surviving, right? You're just going through each day because nobody expects something like that to happen. And it was, it was a near death accident. And then, you're trying to run a business, and I was so lucky to have such great support and great people who worked with me, a great partner, and people to help carry that through. If I had been on my own, I honestly don't know what I would have done. So we sort of went through that, and my husband, Tom, he went through his recovery, and we went through basically teaching him balance all over again. He had a brain injury that we were working through as well. So there were a lot of things in life that were just really, really different.
Wow.
And then also trying to come back to being the business owner and running the business and being the fitness personality and the instructor.
And that takes a lot of energy.
I was going to say, yeah.
Huge energy, right? And I was always on the go before that. And years before, I just sort of ran that. I call it the racehorse lifestyle. And that's what I did. And I just ran and ran, busy, fill all the spaces, right? So then what I did was, again, trying to get back into business. And then I just dove even deeper into that. And I think when we're in that chaos, we try to maybe push aside some of the feelings that we're having and try, in a sense, not to deal with those, but instead make ourselves even busier. So that's what I did. That's what I did.
I bet a lot of our listeners can resonate with that, maybe having gone through such a traumatic experience, but we all have our own forms of trauma. And sometimes it feels so much easier to just get busier than deal with those feelings.
Yeah.
Oh. Right. Exactly. And we can't compare. One person's trauma we can't compare those because everybody has different stressors and different traumas, and it's not fair to judge that. Everybody deals with it differently. So my way of dealing with it was just to try to dive right back in. And it was all very public too. Tom's accident was in the paper. It was on the news. It was, and I think part of that too was a lot of pressure to come back to it. And
you were a well-known person on the island too, right? with running your fit camps and like, isn't it weird? You're a local celebrity. You should have one of those PEI famous shirts. But yeah, I didn't even think about that part for you, Gineen, that it would be such a public thing to be going through. So anywhere you went, it's hard to get away from it.
Yeah. It was always talking about it and and which I loved, you love talking to people and telling them about the story, but it can be really overwhelming. So there was that coupled with, just trying to get back into being that business owner. So then I decided, well, I'll just work, 12 to 16 hour days.
Sure.
Why not? Right.
Oh my gosh. 12 to 16 hour days,
and teaching sometimes 3 classes a day. And then, coming home to try to, and that was once Tom started to get, he was more recovered by then, but I spent a lot of time just being in the hospital with him. And that was really draining too. So being in the hospital with him all day and then trying to get back into some sort of business. I remember trying to get back into our 6 a.m. fit camps. And I would, message to say, okay, this morning I'm coming. And then I'd be like, oh my God, I can't. It was just a lot for me. And then I'd be like, okay, now this morning. And then, so finally I did, but and it was just a lot of back and forth, taking Tom to his appointments. And I think the one thing that I didn't do that I really wish I had now is ask for help. But I think what we do is we all put on our superhero capes, and especially when you're in those positions and you're looked at as being somebody who's so strong, right? And you just feel like you have to be strong for everybody else too.
Yeah.
So
one person says that you're strong and you're like, I am strong. Yeah. Yes, I am strong.
Yeah. And physically and literally you were, right?
Exactly.
But man, wow. That's a heavy burden.
It was. But again, at the time I didn't realize it. And then once Tom started to recover, that's when I started to hit the wall. And then I started to get big time symptoms of burnout. And at that time I didn't really understand what it was. And then I really hit the wall. Yeah.
Oh.
So then it's been the last 7 years of just focusing on myself and healing and doing a ton of research, meeting with a lot of professionals and just trying to get my body back to a state where it's happier.
Yeah. And
which it is.
If you don't mind me asking, what were like the kind of signs that made you realize that like you were going through a burnout phase of your life?
Exactly. And I think that's such a big thing for people who are sort of heading towards burnout, because I didn't understand it. And I didn't know. All I knew that was my body was so tired all the time. And I would just wake up and no matter what I did, I didn't feel rested. I would nap. I still wouldn't feel rested. And I just had it was like a haze and a brain fog that I couldn't explain to anybody. It wasn't your normal fatigue where you can, you go have a little nap and you feel fine again. It was a fatigue where I remember just dragging myself through work and thinking, oh my God, am I going to make it through this day? And I would go home in between classes and shower, and I would cry. I would cry in the shower because I just thought, how am I going to go back, put on this face and teach a boot camp, right? How am I physically going to be able to do it? And I did somehow, but sometimes I thought, well, would they notice if I slept in my car? Would anybody see me? Would anybody notice? Right. Yeah. And I'm pretty sure I did have a nap, like kind of under my desk one day, because I couldn't get out of my way. I couldn't function. I had other symptoms too. I had numbness, tingling. Yeah. I had printed off this little list. This is the list. You can't see it, but
oh my goodness.
When I went to the endocrinologist, I brought a little list of 27 symptoms, and I'm sure he was really happy about that.
That's amazing to know yourself that well. And like any doctor or specialist would be like, you're a dream patient to come and just like feed me all this information, because you know yourself the best too.
Exactly. And those for our listeners that are listening in, she just held up a paper with a massive list, and it's very impressive.
It's not just like one word per line. Like that's detail.
I think he was a little taken back by the list, but there were so many things. And I think because my body was so healthy before, all of these things just didn't make any sense. So I had pain and discomfort under my right rib that I couldn't explain. And when I stood up, I'd get really dizzy, and I didn't understand that either. So that was my blood pressure changing, sore feet, sore joints. And just again, that brain fog and that fatigue were probably, I think, the biggest symptoms. Digestive changes, that was another one. Skin issues. So, rashes, and it just everything in my body was saying, stop, stop. So, yeah.
Oh, I think that's really impactful too, though, because I'm sure it probably, you were getting symptoms here and there, and they were like kind of adding up, but you're probably like, oh, that's kind of different. Oh, that's kind of weird.
Yeah.
But like so often we don't take the step to think like, why am I feeling this way right now? What can I do right now? Because especially if you are kind of in the thick of it, it's so hard to think of yourself first. And it's like, okay, no, but I have to go do this first.
Yeah.
And so it's putting yourself first.
It's so true. And I think it was actually my husband that he said to me one day, he said, you have to stop. He said, you are not okay. And he said, I'm just really worried about you. And I was still like, what are you talking about? Like, I got this. Like, I got it.
You're the one who just went through this big, like I'm fine.
Right?
Yeah. I'm fine. Right.
Right. So I think that is one of the things that is really tough about this, because it wasn't until I stopped that I really understood how unwell I was. So when I got out of that hamster wheel of that racehorse lifestyle, I was like, oh no, this is not good. And how do I fix it?
Yeah. And like, how do you even like jump off that hamster wheel? Like what was the thing besides Tom, like finally saying that? Was there anything else that was finally like, okay, yeah, he's right.
Yeah.
I need to do this.
Yeah. I think when I got to the point when I actually noticed the physical symptoms that were happening, when I really tuned into it, then it's kind of scared me, because there were some pretty big physical. That's when it just became a little scary to me. And I thought, I need to do something about this, because I had gained 40 pounds, and I think it was 3 months.
Wow.
And when you're in, it's fast. And when you're in the fitness industry, I couldn't figure out, I knew my body so well. I could, I remember when I did fitness competing, I could change my body within 5 pounds. I knew how to do it. I just knew how to go there, and nothing I did would change this. So I had to learn, like you said, to get off that hamster wheel. And for me, because of the personality that I have, I knew that I couldn't be in the fitness industry just part-time. For me, it was all in, right? It was just too hard for me to do it and scale back. So I knew I had to just completely leave it for a while. And that was super heartbreaking at the time.
Yeah.
But it's exactly what I needed to do. Now, not everybody could do that, right? That I was lucky to be able to kind of make that break. And then you go through emotional stuff after that, right? Like, because I had left my family. They were my fitness people were my family. Right. So,
well, like my parents, my parents used to work out with Gineen. That's how I first met her. I would come home from Calgary and get up and go to 6 a.m. fit camp with mom and dad on my vacation.
Yes. You were in Calgary. I forgot that.
And I just you had such like an infectious energy about you. And I know like you and my dad had a special little relationship. I know. And they just like appreciated you so much. I mean, obviously if they're getting up to drive from Rustico 3 mornings a week to do a 6 a.m. workout when neither of them were even working,
we're retired. Let's just get up at 5 a.m.
This sounds fun. But yeah, like you just like, you were the place, right? Like it was like Gineen just gives that sense of energy and community and love, and you care so much. Like, I think that's part of your personality too, like that all or nothing, but it's, people feel that from you. So I can just imagine like what was that mental impact, I guess, too, of, gaining the weight and not, being that image that maybe you're used to being as well as a fitness instructor. How did that play out for you?
Terrible. It was awful. I'm not going to lie. And I basically I didn't know any other way to deal with it, but I sort of kind of went into hiding. I left Facebook. I didn't really go out. I think, and there was a lot of shame attached to it too, for me, and a lot of people would say, well, why? But here's something that I found out that was really interesting about myself, is that I never thought that I was attached to my vocational identity, but I sure was. Yeah. And I always thought, and I still think today, like I really love the thought in my own mind that I stay very humble. And I just think of myself as one of the, a country girl. I grew up down towards like Montague Murray River, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm just a country girl that loves fitness. But then I realized I was attached to that identity, very much so. And then I lost myself. I had no idea who I was anymore without being sort of fitness Gineen. Like who was I? And I remember my sister just saying, well, just, sit out on the deck and read a book. And I was like, how do you do that? Because I was so used to just go, what? Right? Like, what are you talking about? Read a book. Like that's
time for that.
Something I do.
Can I do that while I go for a run?
Right. And then I couldn't, like my body just did not allow me to exercise at that point, because every time I tried to do, again, I wanted to go back to those workouts that I was so used to, it would crash and I would just pay for it for days. So it was learning my body all over again. But yes, it was very tough mentally to go through that change. It was tough. Oh. And I did lots of crying.
Good. Like, I'm glad, you have to though. Like, that's imagine holding all that in.
Yeah. Well, in private.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah. That's fair. Well, and you said you were in hiding anyway, right? You weren't seeing people, you weren't, getting out there.
I know. And everything had changed so much. I remember holding just so many fluids in my face too. And I would see people and they wouldn't recognize me. And it was the weirdest thing, because they were so used to the person I was, and everything just felt so different. And yeah, so it was a very strange space to be in, but I'm actually really glad I had the opportunity to go through it, because I really believe things happen for reasons. And I wouldn't have learned the things I did about my body. I wouldn't be able to share what I went through, and hopefully, prevent other people, and not just women, men go through this too, but both men and women, from going through extreme burnout. We can go through different levels of burnout, right? But for me, I don't want somebody else to have to spend 6 years trying to heal from burnout.
That's a long journey.
Yeah. Yeah. It felt like forever sometimes.
I bet.
But I mean, it's amazing how quick it goes by too. But yeah, it felt like a long journey at times, because you take a few steps forward, take a few steps backwards while you're trying to, get through things. But I'm very thankful to be where I am today now.
Yay. Yeah. That's so awesome. Like, thank you first and foremost for sharing your story, because I know, like, sometimes I'm not even ready to share my story completely. So thank you for being completely transparent and honest with us. I'm sure our listeners will really, some of them will really resonate as well. So thank you for sharing that story. You mentioned a couple like steps. What are some of the steps, for example, that you would kind of do to kind of try to get out of the burnout?
So one of the things that I suggest to people is, because the central nervous system has been so greatly affected by being sort of up here all the time, one of the things that I had to do was work on methods. So meditation, breathing, just calming things that could bring my body back down. Being out in nature was a huge thing. Just going for walks. For me, exercise became a walk for 20 minutes, and not a brisk walk, just a nice, gentle walk. So doing things that are more gentle, because here's the thing today that I really think is important for people to remember is that we are basically running marathons all day, every day. It's just the way life is, especially when you're in business. You're just go, 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 right? So now here we are, we've packed a pandemic on top of this, right? And that's not stressful at all, right?
No. What pandemic?
No.
Walk in the park.
So then you've got busy, all the technology we have to sort of maneuver through. And then you pack that on top, and there's a lot of stress. Yeah. So, when we're trying to think about ways to, when we come home, maybe is a great big workout the best thing if you're in burnout is sort of what I'm talking about. If you're already feeling burned out, do we need to be putting more stress on our bodies? Right. That's a toughie. That was a really tough balance for me to figure out what kind of exercise does my body need. And it's different every single day. And it still is. I have to be really in tune with my body and really listen to it and say, well, if I've had a really big day, then maybe that's not maybe I just need to do some stretching or some relaxation. Food is huge. What we eat can be either healing or it can really wreak havoc on our system. So getting in touch with what agrees with my system, what doesn't, that was really huge. Food sensitivities became a huge thing for me. So really getting in tune with your system there. And then, I would always suggest maybe seeing what's happening with my blood work, and because you need to know where things are in order to be able to fix them. So that's a huge part of it too. But definitely techniques for relaxation, because today's world is just so stressful. That's so huge.
Yeah.
We're both just like,
we're just like, yes.
Yeah.
Say that again.
Yeah. And it's like, I think so many of us know that, like, we're sitting here being like, absolutely. Yet, am I doing it? I mean, I'll speak for myself. No,
I know.
Steph's a little better than I am, but still it's hard to prioritize it because it feels like, well, I can't stop running this marathon because clients are counting on me, or I need to get that next client, or, like there's just so many things to do when you're running a business that we forget about ourselves.
We do. And I think that this is where we have to really learn more about ourselves, right? And I think we're going to see a lot, unfortunately, I hope that we don't, but I think with all of this extra added stress in life today, I really feel like we're going to see more burnout. And this is where we really have to pay attention and be kind to ourselves and kind of get out of our own way. I was talking to my little group that I have right now the other night, and I said, sometimes our biggest obstacle is ourselves. Yeah. And pride gets in the way. And you know what? It's so funny. Like when I left the business, sometimes we think the world's not going to continue if we're not doing certain things.
Right.
But guess what? It does. It does. And if we don't look after ourselves, then it's so true. We always use that oxygen mask, analogy, and it seems so cliche, but it's so true. And if we don't look after ourselves, then who's going to look after us, right? And I was very lucky at that time that things sort of fell into place where I went back to school and things like that. But if I had have been a business person just solely on my own, I honestly don't know what would have happened. I wouldn't have had the energy to continue my business. And that would have been a really scary place to be. Definitely. So I'm hoping that, people can really kind of dive in and take a look at what's my day? Because we get spinning. We just get spinning and spinning and spinning, and the hamster wheel never stops. But then we have to think, what happens when the hamster wheel breaks? Right? Then what happens?
Right.
And it can happen really easily. It's before you know what's going on. So I think we all just need to practice more self-care right now, especially today.
Preach. Yes. Yeah. What would you say to someone who's maybe like in it and maybe is starting to recognize the signs, but they are scared to say that's how they're feeling, or maybe they like believe there's something truly wrong with them. And that's why this has happened to them. Like, you know, like I think that ego gets in the way, kind of like you were just saying. How does someone like that ask for help? Like what's a nice way to start putting themselves in that seat of priority?
Yeah. And I think that's a difficult place to be sometimes, because one of the things is that it's not terribly, I guess, recognized in conventional medicine at the current time. It's a really tricky thing if you do blood work to catch, right? Mm. So I would suggest, you know, even just, you know, talking to somebody who might have knowledge of burnout and adrenal issues is a big thing. I know I did a lot of research first, and that helped me a lot. There was a lot of information online, but I think even just finding, like, even if, you know, if they email me or just somebody that can understand it, because I think I've had actually a couple of friends who have been through something really similar. And one of the things they talked about was just feeling really alone because nobody understood the symptoms. And it can be a very lonely place to be, because it's not something that's people, when you tell them you're tired, they're like, well, just have a nap. Right. But when you're in true burnout, a nap's not going to cut it. It takes a lot of lifestyle changes. And I think you're right. Like, we can just kind of, that pride gets in our way. But my suggestion would be to, by whatever means, seek help. I worked with both my GP and a naturopathic doctor, which worked great to work with both. And I think no matter what route you feel comfortable taking has to be your own journey, but reaching out to somebody who has knowledge of burnout and possibly adrenal issues and is a big thing, because if you leave it, that's where you can spiral down really quickly and become really, really sick. And that's, of course, not where I want to see anybody.
No.
Yeah.
That's why you're sharing your story, right?
Yes. Yeah. And it's just so, I didn't realize I was there until I literally slammed into the brick wall. And then I was like, oh no, this is not good. Yeah. Yeah. So, and yeah, absolutely. But it can be definitely a really kind of lonely place to be, because you sort of don't understand the symptoms yourself. Yeah.
Well, like, I'm thinking about your list, your full page. And like, I've definitely in the last few months, like, felt some of the signs and like something's not right. And so I took a big step back in September and like worked as little as possible. Got out for lots of hikes and walks and, you know, slept in with no alarm, like just as much of that I could do. And, you know, stay with the commitments that I had, but not take on any new ones, which was such a gift. Yeah. And I'm so grateful I could do that. And I think that's going to be a annual thing every September, because good for you. After the fishing season, I need it. But a lot of those symptoms, I don't think I even would know how to explain them. And maybe that's part of that whole, like, you need to slow down and really listen to yourself. Because I knew something was off, or many things were off, but I couldn't like pinpoint them, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's true. And that's so great that you did that you listened, because I think that's what can get you out of the woods, right? If you catch it early enough and take some of those steps, like, you know, decreasing the schedule and eating really well and getting some nice restorative exercise, that can really stop things and reverse it before you get in too deep. Yeah, absolutely. Good for you.
Yeah. That was really hard for me.
Yes.
It is. It's hard. It's hard to step back. Yeah. Because I talk to a lot of people and they say, but then this, and then this, right?
Yeah.
We get caught in that. But we need, but we don't. Right? Yeah. I see so many places
hit the brick wall too.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
And now when I look back, I see so many places where I could have made changes, but I was that same way. I was like, well, I can't do this because this person needs me and I have to fit this client in here and I have to do this class. But guess what? I thought I did, but I didn't. There could have been other ways. Yeah. And yes, there were things that were out of my control, but it was the way that I approached things and the way that I handled going through that space that actually kind of got me in big, big trouble. I'm not blaming anybody else but me. And it's hard to say that, but it's absolutely true. I was sort of my worst enemy. Yeah.
Aren't we usually?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
live and learn.
Yeah, exactly. Isn't it the saying that like the meanest person is yourself sometimes? Like the way you even speak to yourself or speak about yourself too.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Well, I saw Gineen that you were doing the high five habit in the mirror, right?
Yes.
The new Mel Robbins book is all about like that self-love and self-acceptance because like Steph just said, that mental replay in our brains that tells us we're not good enough, we're not smart enough, we're not blank, whatever your thing is enough.
Yeah.
We're so good at that. And often it starts from the moment we wake up and look in the mirror. So I was like cheering you on when I saw that you posted yourself high-fiving in the mirror.
She's so good.
Yeah.
She's so good. I love it. And I listened to a podcast with her on, and I was like, wow, like there's actually a lot of science behind it. And it's really cool. I think it's awesome. And it's such an easy thing to do. Like wake up and give yourself a little high five.
High five. Yeah, absolutely. I'm reading her book right now too. And it's so, the science is there and she makes it so easy to understand. Cause like, I don't like science. I don't like doing research. I want someone just to give it to me in a way that I can understand. And I'm like, ding, ding, ding.
You don't want the statistics?
No. Well, I like spreadsheets and stuff, but I don't know. I just, I'm not into
I know, right? Just give me the info.
I got my strengths. I know what they are. But it's so cool.
I know. I love all that stuff.
Yeah.
And it's so true. We have to really talk. We have to say better things to ourselves, right? Like, why are we tearing ourselves? And she said in her podcast, this was really cool. I know we're getting a little bit off track, but we're good. She said, when you watch a child in the mirror, what do? They smile and they laugh and they love looking in the mirror at themselves. Like they just love themselves to death. But where does that change, right? How does that change it when we become adults? So,
right. Yeah. That's bang on. It's sad.
I know.
Why can't we just love ourselves more?
Why can't we?
We're working on it. Yeah.
We're getting there.
Yeah.
So how did you know you were ready to get back into the fitness industry? Because you took a break.
Yeah.
When
break.
were you ready?
A long break. Yeah. Because you actually went back to school. You started a whole different profession.
Oh,
yes.
Yeah.
I did.
Oh my goodness.
I did. I know. We didn't get there.
Tell us about that. How did you decide like what you wanted to do or that it was like, I'm ready to work again, but I can't go back to fitness?
I know. Right. And that whole process was almost like, I know this sounds really bizarre, but it's like the stars aligned. And I literally got into school. They had, I think, 2 places left. And this was 3 months after I believe I had stopped working. And I was like, I got to do something. I'm going to go. I was going absolutely bonkers at home. So I went to, I know, right? What? So I went to Eastern College and I did the occupational therapy and physiotherapy assistant program. I always had an interest in physiotherapy, even before Tom had his accident, but then it sort of solidified it. And it was so funny because one of the physios that worked with Tom at the QEH, she said to me, you should do this. You should do the assistant program. And this was before I even was thinking of it. It was so funny how that all works. Right. So here I go, went through the program. And then I ended up working with home care and I absolutely loved it. It was such a good change. It was so perfect for me at the time because going back to school was great because we went to school from 8 to noon, and I could get like naps in because I had to have 2 to 3 hour naps every single day just to be able to function.
Wow.
So for me, that was perfect. And it was a challenge for sure, going back to school and studying again and doing exams again. Holy smokes. I thought, oh my God, what am I doing? I don't know how to do this anymore. Right. This is crazy. So, and it's a lot of mental energy. We don't think about that, but when you're burned out, all that mental energy of studying took a lot out of my system. So I needed that time to be able to nap and relax. And so it was absolutely perfect. And then, so I worked doing that profession for 5 years. And, and I had people ask me before, they'd say, well, you think you could, can you train me? And I just never felt ready. And I don't know how to even explain that. I just knew I wasn't there yet because I know how much energy the fitness industry takes, right? I knew that I just wasn't ready for it. And I think emotionally, I wasn't ready for it either, because it just felt so far from me then, because I had literally left for like 6 years. And I thought, and I had to go through the whole process of like, can I do this again? Am I feeling like I actually can? And then my husband is from Fredericton, and he had been wanting to move back. He was missing home. And I said, okay, well, let's give it a try.
I don't want to leave PEI. For those of you who are not watching this, Gineen has a PEI necklace on. She's got a PEI sign behind her. So she loves this island.
I love it. I love it. So anyway, I said, okay, we'll give it a try. And it was so fast though. It was literally like we found a house, and the market today is insane.
Yes.
And we bid on it. And within a weekend, we hadn't even been in the house because of COVID. We saw it, a virtual sort of showing, and we had purchased a house, and I was like, what just happened?
What did you do? My heart's beating faster just hearing this.
I know. And it's so funny because I don't know if I was really ready for it, because, you're looking and you have the idea of like, oh, it's going to happen someday. And then it actually happened. And and Tom said, we got the house. And here's what my reaction was. It was like, I lost it and I cried. And I was so upset because I thought, well, this isn't going to happen, but it did. So that's fine.
That's not real. It's not real.
It's not really happening. So then we moved over here, and then I thought, well, what am I going to do now? I didn't have a plan. And again, I'm a big believer in things happen for reasons. And I knew I was close to being ready. And I just had to say like, well, and I don't have contacts here. I was like, what am I going to do? And I had a really I spoke with somebody who just basically was like, just dive in with both feet. And that's so not me. That is so not me.
Although knowing you from the outside, I feel like that is you.
I like to, and it's funny how you see somebody, right? Because I can be when I'm in that mode, I'm like, yeah, let's do it. But when I'm not, and I can really pull back and I can be really reserved and really sort of things, I need to like think it through, and I need to like, so that's exactly what I did. I was like, you know what? Things are changing for a reason. And I miss the fitness industry a lot. And I think the biggest draw for me was that I really felt like I had a story to share with other people. And what started to happen was when I started to kind of be vulnerable and put myself out there, and I jumped right back on Facebook after I didn't even know how to work Facebook anymore. Yeah. I didn't know what a Facebook Live was. It was the craziest thing. So I had to learn sort of Facebook all over again. I'm still learning things about it, but anyway, it was kind of funny, but I just dove in, and then I started to get emails from a ton of women in particular, men too, but mostly women, saying, oh my God, you're telling my story. And I was like, holy smokes. And that I know, Stephanie, that's such a huge,
chills.
Yeah. I was so overwhelmed and so just like, I'm a super empath. And so I really feel for other people. And I was like, oh my gosh, like all these emails and people are saying, you are telling my story. I'm feeling exactly the same way. And I thought, oh my God, like this needs to change. And, maybe I can't fix everything for them, but if I can help to guide them and give them some of the knowledge that I spent years listening to podcasts. I had a 40-minute drive both ways to work. And that's all I did. I listened to podcasts on health, on adrenals, on the endocrine system, and we never know everything, right? And everybody's body is very different, but I feel like I could share some of that information that I gained and maybe make it a little bit easier for somebody else. And I just thought it is so sad that people are feeling this way and not enjoying their life, not feeling like they have energy to, play with their grandkids, to play with their children, to go out and spend time with their friends. And they're just missing out on parts of life because of this. Yeah. So that was my big pull. And the more messages I got, the more I was like, you know what? I need to do this. I need to go there. And physically, I honestly wasn't sure if I was completely ready, but I thought I need to try. And it's a balance, right? So I still have to be really careful of how much stress I put on my body in terms of exercise, in terms of, I need to get to bed at certain times. I need to eat really well. And I have to always be conscious of those things because I could slide back into that, burnout sort of area again, really easily. I just know that I have to be more careful with my system now. And so it's tough. Like, I think that's been one of the toughest parts about this journey of getting back into it. It's so exciting, but at the same time, I have to be really mindful of not jumping back into my old habits because it's that programming, right? I'm programmed to be that workhorse and that racehorse. And man, it's so easy to go there. My brain wants to go there so bad. It's like, I got this. I know how to do this. I know it. Yeah. Right.
So what spirit animal are you going to claim instead of a workhorse or a racehorse?
Oh my gosh. The tortoise? I don't know. What am I gonna?
No, you're not.
The sloth. Not the sloth. No,
that's too far in the other direction.
Too much.
You'll have to think about that one and let us know.
Oh, maybe the unicorn.
Ooh, I like that.
But I think that's really impactful, even just to like have that self-awareness. And then I'm sure like the people that you work with as well, to teach them to look out for themselves and their self-awareness as well, to have someone that can connect with them on that kind of level. Cause I guess like a lot of the fitness is so superficial sometimes. And if you can go a little bit deeper, how much more impactful it must be for your clients.
Yeah. Yeah, that's been a huge change for me in my beliefs in how I teach health and fitness in general. But not to say that other viewpoints are not correct, but it's the ways that I viewed. So it was sort of like calories in, calories out, do your exercises, burn more calories. And that's just the way that we thought of it. But now for me, there's so much more to it. Yeah. What are your hormones doing? Right? Do we know that? What's your lifestyle like? Right? What kind of exercise is right for your lifestyle? So if you are going full tilt all day, maybe that go hard or go home workout isn't serving you well. Nutrition is so huge. What types of food are you eating? Do you have food sensitivities? What's your digestion like? These are questions that I never really got into with people, and I didn't have the time to dig deep. What are you going through emotionally? What did you go through emotionally in the past? What are you not letting go of? Those are some huge things too. And those are the things that I never really related to. It was all, again, when you say superficial, I think there's different ways to look at that, but I think you're absolutely correct in saying that we look on the surface, but we need to go deeper than that, because what's holding you back is sometimes not what we really think it is. It's not like that, just eat this. and just do this exercise, right?
It's green smoothie and, you're
green
fine.
Smoothie,
Magic
stick
pill,
this
magic
many
pill.
calories.
I know, right? Yeah. No, we need to go much deeper than that. And even just looking at those things that people get very uncomfortable when we, and that's what I'm kind of trying to do with the group I'm working with now. Like, I want to get really deep with them and say, okay, let's buckle down. Let's look at a few tough things here. And making lifestyle changes. It's not easy because we love our comfort zones, right? We love them so much. We do things the same way every day. She's like, I love my comfort zone.
I'm the queen of comfort.
Especially like they're going into this time of the year.
Oh,
yeah. This is when a lot of us hunker down in comfort.
Yeah. We love our routines and we love all that stuff that we just hold on to.
Yeah.
But we need to, if we want to make changes in our lives, if we are feeling burned out, we need to do the hard things and we need to change some of those habits and that programming, and we need to make it different. And that's not going to happen overnight. It's not, but it's so worth it. If you can go there, if you can really dig deep and think what's really holding me back from from health, that's when you're going to have all these big sort of aha moments. And it's been really cool going on a journey with a bunch of women and just chatting with them about, we talk about a lot of deep stuff, and sometimes they'll be like, oh yeah, like maybe that is why, maybe, we just we have all these really cool sort of, being a mom. How do you not lose yourself when you're a mom? Right. I'm not a mom, but I have lots of mom friends, and they kind of get lost in being the mom. But where did you go? Yeah. Where's your health? Who's taking care of you? Right. When you're taking care of other people. So I think that's important to kind of look at and dig deep into those things. Yeah.
Yeah. I think a lot of us, like non-moms, but entrepreneurs, kind of like we look at our businesses as our babies too, right? And we get lost in that sense too of, I need to show up as this like polished business owner, and I need people to look at me in a certain way or else I'm not worthy. And, there's so much. So whether it's your child, your business, or whatever your thing is, we start hiding parts of ourselves at some point in our life. And then that just feels shitty.
Yeah.
But then you've done it for so long. It's scary to then like lift the veil and say, hey, this is who I am. Because what if people don't love me anymore?
Yeah.
I love that. I love what you just said, because it's so true. We kind of, we carry these, and it is very true when you're in business and you're an entrepreneur. Sometimes you just feel like you always have to have this mask on, right? Of, I got it all together and things are perfect here. And, I like to think that I had people fooled, that I don't know if I did or not, but that I was handling everything really, really well when I was going through what I was going through. You just put on the smile, you do your thing, and I'm sure there were people that knew, but that's what you do. You just kind of, and then that doesn't serve anybody well, especially, yourself or your business, and your business can really suffer when you're not taking care of yourself too.
Oh yes.
Big time. Yeah. It's like if you don't see it in yourself, or you don't have like the bravery to speak up and say, I need help. You need those people around you who are going to call you on your shit and be like, hey, like you're drowning.
Yeah.
And
I know.
Like,
right.
Big Papa, when he said to you, listen, Gineen, this is enough, right? Like you had someone who really loved you and cared about you, who was holding the mirror up for you.
Yeah. And what a kick in the gut that was. I was like, when you have to admit, like when you have to do, I don't love the phrase, I can't, but I shouldn't, right? I shouldn't be doing this. This is not serving me. When you feel like it's a strength thing, we feel like we should be able to do everything. And it's again, that superhuman sort of persona or facade that we sort of put on. And I certainly had my cape, on real tight, and I wasn't wanting to let it go.
Yeah.
But I had to let that go. And And it was my pride, right? It's pride.
Yeah.
It gets in the way. And you're right. We have to have people who can call us out. Your best friends are going to be the ones that are going to call you out on that and say, you know what? I'm concerned about your health.
Mm-hmm.
So I hope that people have friends out there that are going to say to them, you know what? You're not like, I see that you're not okay. Because sometimes that can be the thing that makes you go, oh, wow, like somebody's noticing this. And you know what? You're right. I'm struggling.
Yeah. Usually when it's at the point where someone else is seeing it, it's probably pretty far along too. Right.
Yeah.
Cause we're real good at hiding it.
Oh yeah.
I know. We are. We're such good little actors, right? We
just run around and look out Hollywood. Yeah.
Everything's good. Everything's fine.
Yeah.
I have this picture that one of my friends gave me, and it's a kind of a joke between us because she always says, I'm fine. It's fine. Everything's fine. Mm-hmm. And so that's sort of on my wall. And every time I look at it, I kind of smile because it's so true. That's what we do, right? It's fine.
Yeah.
It's fine.
Or I'll get to that. Right.
Yeah. I'll deal with that later.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know.
So you have a little program. I don't want to like diminish it in any way, but you have a program that you have right now. Is it called a 12-week reset? Is that what I've seen?
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about that. Yeah.
So at first I wasn't sure what to sort of create it as. And I thought, I needed to be enough time to incorporate some change because in the past, I remember like we used to do the boot camps and things like that. And we do 4 weeks and we do 6 weeks. And I thought by the time somebody was at like 6 weeks, they were just starting to get it. They were just starting to like go through the changes and then it would end. Right. And you're like, no, come back. You're just getting it. So I had to, and for some people, I think that feels like a long time, but 12 weeks goes by so fast. We all know that. And in the beginning, you think that's a big commitment, but it really takes a lot of time to even start into those changes. So, what I wanted to do was have a group of, and it ended up that it's all women. And I wanted to focus mostly on reduction of inflammation because that's a huge, huge culprit for a lot of people. So when we look at reducing inflammation, we're looking at lifestyle changes. So sleep, digestion, food, exercise, stress. We go through all of that stuff. So each week we have a different topic that we talk about. So whether it is stress, like how do you reduce stress? What are some techniques we could try? And I also have some people who come on join me on like a little live. We have a little private Facebook group. So whether it's somebody like a practitioner that I've worked with, I've had a couple of practitioners that have come on that I've worked with that were really helpful, just introducing them to what are some tools out there that you could use? What are some things you could tap into? So some of the things, when we all think fitness industry, we're thinking of weight loss. And for me, it's so much more than that because we need to look bigger picture. Yes, weight loss will happen. If you do the right things, weight loss is a byproduct.
Yeah.
But we have to look at what's happening with our health internally. Forget about the scale. I have a relationship with get out of here. Because it can really play with your mind. And I've seen it happen so many times. The amount of people that I've put on a scale, because we did that with boot camps, that was the thing to do. You weighed people and measure people. The amount of people that I had to get on a scale and then they broke down in tears. I just can't. I feel so bad. I'm sorry to all the people I put on a scale.
I didn't know any better at the time.
I tell you? I know, I didn't know. But to have somebody sit there in front of you who's worked so hard and done so many good things, and then they get on that tiny hunk of metal and they break down in tears, and everything that they did that was good is erased now. That's not okay with me. So I really discourage people from thinking of it in terms of, so we look at energy. We'll do some measurements because if you lose inflammation, your measurements are going to change. So, how are you feeling though in general? Are you noticing, like we play with food, listen to your body, get in tune with your body. What are you sensitive to? What are you not? Do you have any food sensitivities? Do you know? The only way we know is to take it out for a little bit, reintroduce it and see just how you feel. So playing with some of that stuff and just teaching them how to be more in tune. How do you get off that hamster wheel, right? That we're all on, or how do you slow it down at least? Yeah. So I'm really excited. I'm really super proud of the women that I'm working with right now, because they are just this group of amazing energy, and they're seeing so many great changes and I think in lifestyle changes too, and getting more in tune with themselves and loving themselves more. Like we talk about the whole Mel Robbins thing, and just learning to love yourself. And I want something that people can continue. I don't want them to need me forever and ever, because that's not the whole point of it, but I want to give them the tools that they can incorporate into their everyday life and just understand, what are we doing to our bodies? So life is stressful. We know that's not good for our systems, but then we couple, poor nutrition on top of that, lack of sleep. And all of this stuff starts to snowball. And so it's been a journey for sure. And it's been a lot of learning. I've had to, the whole tech side of things. I watched your, I watched your podcast with Kathleen Grace, and I was like, oh my God, I need to talk to her, because she had so many good tips.
Yeah.
She had so many good tips. And I was like, I'm so there where she was. And it's just figuring out, like, I do little exercise videos for the group, and it's so weird. I'm so used to being around people when I'm teaching. That was the weirdest thing ever. I was like, what is this? So, but then like editing it and uploading it and things like that, and just doing lives and having tech difficulties. And so that's been a whole learning curve. And just that connection, right? Having that connection piece of not being with somebody, and how do I motivate them if I can't be with them and feel their energy and just be so close to them. So it's just learning a new way to do it. So we do some little check-ins, just like we're sort of doing Zoom, and it's been good. It's been a really wild journey, but I'm loving it. It's so good to, even if I can, maybe 12 weeks again is not a long time, and maybe that's not going to change everything for them, but if they can take away some of the important parts, and again, just understanding that I need to, drilling into them that your health is number one. And if you don't have that, you don't have much of anything else.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's so huge, right? And why are we waiting to look after ourselves? Why are we putting that off? Why are we saying, well, when this situation is perfect, that's when I'm going to look after myself? I say no to that all the time. And I say, when things are tough, when things feel hard, that's when you have to dig in even deeper and really take care of yourself. Yeah. So it's been awesome. I'm really excited, and I'm excited to, continue. And I just want to help as many people as I can who are struggling out there, who are sort of going through struggles. And
good for you.
Thanks.
I'm like shifting gears for a second, because I also want to hear about your rebounding, because I love watching your cute videos. You're adorable, and you make me smile every single time. And I want to know, like people are probably like, what is rebounding?
I was gonna say, I know what rebounding is, so I'm thinking the same thing.
Like, how did you get it? How did you find it?
I know, right?
And why is it so amazing? Because like, you are always sharing about it, and I need to know more.
Oh my God, I love it. So I actually bought my rebounder. So they're a mini trampoline. And you're right. Some people will be like, what is rebounding? I don't get that. So if you say,
I think of rebounding as like,
I know, right? So I think that causes some confusion, but
don't worry, Tom, we'll call
it. You're okay. Everything's good. So it's basically like the mini trampolines. And I bought mine 5 years ago because I had done some research on the lymphatic system in particular, and how the lymphatic system correlates with burnout and adrenal issues. And I was really struggling to find a type of exercise that my system could tolerate, because one of the things was keeping my heart rate at a really even level. I couldn't have my heart rate spiking too high or that would cause a crash afterwards. So it was, again, just getting in tune with my system about that. So I purchased it, and I actually didn't really use it very much after I got it. It was kind of one of those things I put to the side, and I was like, well, that's really cool. Another fitness toy that I have, right? Yeah. Of all these little toys. And then, so then I started kind of playing with it, and, I just put on some fun music, and I just bounced, and it just started to make me feel so good. Mm-hmm. And I hadn't had that feeling for a long time, because exercise always made me feel really good. Like from the time that I was a young teenager, I loved doing like aerobics. I was like the step aerobic queen, and it's like totally dating me. But anyway, but I really struggled to find something that made me feel good again. Mm. And this just brought so much joy for me. And it was so easy on my joints too. I have a herniated disc in my thoracic spine. So sometimes that was really tough to work around. So I can't explain it. And I know if somebody else is the same about rebounding, if they get that same feeling, I don't know if it's kind of comparable to the runner's high, but it is just this euphoric feeling that you get. And it can honestly take me out of, if I'm in a bad mood, Tom will say to me, he's like, you need to go out on your rebounder. He's like, get out, go out there. Or if I'm stressed, go bounce. So it's my go-to, but now I know how many benefits it has. Like when I researched it, not only like the lymphatic system, and that's a big way that we get rid of our toxins and reduce some of the inflammation and fluids that we're carrying around, but it's so great for muscle tone. Even you wouldn't think that bouncing can actually help with muscle bone density, your digestive system, mental health in general. They've done all kinds of studies. NASA actually did a study with rebounders after the astronauts would come back from space, and they were trying to figure out the best way and the fastest way to get their muscle and bone density back up. And they concluded that rebounding was one of the best ways to do that. So it's got some really good science behind it too, but
cool. You're like an astronaut.
I know, right? But it's just so much fun, and it's so good for the immune system and circulatory system. So, and balance too. It can really help with balance. So I would love to be able to, I'm just finishing up my certification, my Bellicon certification for rebounding now. And I'm super excited to be able to get into teaching in the future.
So it's like the new step aerobics.
Yeah. For me, yes.
Okay, well now I need to get a little mini trampoline.
Do you need like a tall ceiling? Like, could you bounce in like a regular size room, or would you hit your head?
You could. So my ceiling's here. I'm in my basement actually, and I'm only 5'4", but the ceiling's here. So I think my rebounder is 2 feet off the ground, but I'm close. Like I'm this close to my ceiling when I rebound, but because you're bouncing, you don't bounce up really. You do a little bit, but you're focusing on pushing down into it. So you don't need a ton of space. I do have to be conscious though where I am, because so preferable if you do have some height, it's a little bit nicer, but you don't have to have a ton of space. Yeah.
I feel like we need
Are you gonna, I was gonna say, should we charge that?
I wish I could have brought
it. It could be a business expense, right? It's good for
all kinds of research. Yes, all kinds of research out there.
I think you should. I'm like, we're in my basement right now, so I'm looking at my ceiling heights and being like,
I approve. These aren't tall ceilings down here. So I use it down here, but I use it out in our gym a lot too. And I've got a little more space there. So I can kind of sometimes it just does feel good though, to just like bounce a little bit higher and just, it's so good. I don't know if everybody would love it, but I love it. It's my new thing. I still love things like TRX, and I still love all that stuff, but it's just, it's my jam.
Happy place.
It's my happy place.
I love it.
Yeah. So, and it was really helpful in my healing too, because it could allow me to get some good exercise in and good cardiovascular work without really exhausting my system. It actually gave me energy return too. So
nice.
Yeah.
Cool. You want to ask the big question?
Let's say, should we
do it?
The big question.
So I'm sure rebounding is part of your self-care, but
yes,
what does self-care mean to you, and what do you do to practice self-care?
Oh, that's a good question. So self-care to me is really all encompassing. I'd have to include mental health in there, self-care in terms of looking after my body. What do I put into it? What do I do with my body on a daily basis? What do I expect it to do for me? And, the way we talk to our bodies too, like we had sort of said, what's my internal dialogue every day? And I think sort of when we think of that, we all say mind, body, spirit, but it's absolutely true. If we don't put that all together, we're missing pieces. So self-care to me is, and sometimes we think of self-care as just, massages, and we think of it, but it's not. It's about just those little things every day. What do I say to myself? What do I nurture myself with? And taking that time for even if you had like 5 minutes just to relax and just to tune out and to put your phone away and right. Like so many things. Yeah. I think that's a big thing.
Yeah. And so
I have lots of things.
And it sounds like you've got like a whole tickle trunk full of self-care practices.
Yeah,
do you just see what you need any given day and kind of change it up? Or do you have anything that you do every single day, no matter what?
I know. So that's a really good question, because I would love to be one of those people that says like, I get up every morning and I do my meditation and that's what I want to be. I always like, I want to be that person. I want to be that person that gets up, but I don't. And I kind of just go day by day, because really my body asks for different things every day. So sometimes maybe I do like, I do some of my hypnotherapy. That's one of my tools that I use before I go to bed, or maybe I do it in the morning, or maybe I just need extra time in bed in the morning, and I allow myself that now without guilt. I don't know if you've heard of tapping or EFT. Mm-hmm. I also have that sort of in my little tickle trunk. Mm-hmm. And I try to do things, and it's not always perfect, right? I'm not always like, oh yes, I always take care of myself like perfectly because I don't. And it's constant work. I started doing some yoga. I hadn't done that for a long time. You just go through different cycles, and I just have to be conscious of, putting my phone down is huge. That's a huge one for me. I can really get sucked into that and doing this.
Yeah.
Scroll. Oh, an hour has passed. How did that happen? Yeah. Oh, now it's
2. Right. Cat videos. So I just have to be self-care for me. And I have that little tickle trunk, and it's growing all the time, but it's whether I'm out on my rebounder or whether I just do some stretching, but I sort of allow my body to dictate what and when and where I need. So I love when people are like, I get up and I meditate every morning, and then I do this and I journal, and I love the sound of that, but it's never been sort of my personality. So I sort of just let things come to me as they do. And there's all kinds of things. I know I should be doing this and I should be doing that.
You're doing a lot. So
I'm doing a lot.
Take a taste of your own medicine and remind yourself that you're doing exactly what you need.
Exactly. Right. We get into the thinking we should be doing everything else that everybody else is doing. Yeah. Right. So we need to I think that's a big thing for people too. You have to really think, what do I need? Forget about what this person's doing. What do I need? Yeah. What does my body need? And what,
yeah. It's reprogramming, baby. Yeah.
Yes. I love that. And that's exactly what it's all about. We have to reprogram, because if we know that the programs from previous aren't working, we need to do the work to reprogram.
Yeah.
Yes.
That's awesome. Oh, this has been amazing, Gineen. I'm so happy that we got to do this. One last thing before we say goodbye is where can our listeners and viewers find you? Because I know this is gonna leave them wanting more. Where can they find you?
Well, at the moment, I am on Facebook and Instagram. Mm-hmm. My Instagram handle is actually GCat with a K. I haven't changed it yet. This is how far behind I am. So it's GCat Nicholls. Mm-hmm. And it's just under Facebook. You can look up my name, Gineen Nicholls. And that's probably the easiest way to find me is just on Facebook. I'd say email me, but not so good at checking emails sometimes.
That's fair. Yeah. And we'll tag you whenever we post everything so everyone can easily find you too.
That's awesome. Yeah. And if anybody has any questions about burnout and about symptoms that they might be going through, or if they're struggling, absolutely send me an email. And I have no issues, if you want to do a little chat with me and just kind of talk about some stuff and get some ideas. And absolutely, I just want more people to feel better.
Perfect. Yeah, that's great. Well, I bet you're going to get some messages after this. So might even be.
Bring it on.
Thank you again. This has been so much fun.
Thank you.
Really appreciate your time.
Yes.
I love spending time with you guys. I could talk to you all night.
I know, right?
I know.
All right. Well,
thanks
this
so much.
is another episode of Thriving Tides. So much fun. I learned a lot.
Oh, yes.
And can't wait to hear what all of our listeners have to say. So until next time.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you for joining us for this episode of Thriving Tides. Hit the subscribe button to never miss an episode.
Follow us, Thriving Tides, on Facebook, Instagram, and now YouTube to stay connected. And remember, don't fight the rip currents.